Welcome back to the Perek Project. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast. The other evening, my 14-year-old daughter, one of my 8 kids, saw me designing a little graphic for my Instagram. And she said to me, "Ma, why do you do all this?" And it was a great question. And it made me stop and I think. And I told her, I do it because I'm passionate about sharing how much valuable wisdom Judaism can offer our modern day lives. Years ago, when I was in the early stages of parenting, I must have had one young child at that time, I experienced something that left an impression on me. It was a Purim party, and I was there with my brother and his kids, and my nephew was there, and he must have been about in his early 20s at the time. And he'd had a little bit too much to drink. And we know when someone has a little bit too much to drink, what's inside comes out. And he started to sing nursery rhymes. And it suddenly hit me that, we teach a kid a nursery rhyme or we sing with them and we don't really think much about it. But I realized that it leaves an impression on that child. And in fact, this Mishnah is going to talk to us a little bit about learning and education. And it says that someone who learns when they're young, our mind is fresh and receptive, and it's like writing on fresh paper where every mark that you make is legible, and everything that we teach a young child makes an indelible impression on their hearts and their minds. On the other hand, when a person is older and they learn, it's more difficult. It's like writing on a smudged paper. The words don't come out so clear. Nevertheless, for those of us that are learning later on in life, don't get discouraged. We shouldn't feel bad because in spirituality, God repays our effort. Not just the results, but our every single effort gets repaid. And if we look a little deeper, the Mishnah is also teaching us how we can get the most out of our Torah education, Torah studies. If we approach it like a child who looks up to and has respect for the Torah teachers and for the wisdom that Torah teaches us, then we're going to absorb its wisdom and its lessons. But if we approach it like a cynical old person, then we're not going to succeed. We're not going to absorb its wisdom for our life. On the one hand, we have to approach it with an excitement, with an enthusiasm that's going to help us learn. But on the other hand, as we grow up and as our understanding matures, we have to look at the stories and the lessons that we've learned with a more mature understanding. Sometimes we learn the biblical stories from a very young age. And if we don't stop and think and look into them as an adult, we don't outgrow our childish understandings, and we don't understand and learn the powerful lessons that these stories can teach us. Now let's look at it from the perspective of the educator. What type of educator, what type of teacher is best? So the Mishnah says that someone who learns from the young, it's like eating unripe grapes. It's bitter, it's unappetizing. Their wisdom may be intellectually unattractive. Or it's like drinking unfermented wine. What does this mean? Wine that hasn't been fermented, it still has the sediment. And a person who's very young and inexperienced, their wisdom may still have unclarified issues that clouds it. On the other hand, aged wine is clear as the sediment has settled. Someone who learns from someone who's older, they're like eating ripe grapes. It's satisfying to the heart and the mind. It's delicious to listen to. because wisdom improves with age. It's like wine where the sediment has settled and it's clear. In fact, sometimes when we hear the advice, the wisdom of older people, it may be difficult to understand. But the reality is that a wise, experienced person, their advice, their teachings prove over time that they are correct and satisfying. In fact, I had a personal experience that showed this, and I may have said it before, so apologies if I had. But a few years ago, we were struggling with a decision about what to do with one of our children who we felt wasn't thriving in the current environment. And we weren't sure, was it the personality of the child? Was it the environment? And changing the environment would have meant that we would have had to uproot our entire family, which was a huge decision. And we reached out to Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, who's one of the leading Torah giants of this generation. And we explained the situation to him. And he gave us advice at the time that seemed shocking and didn't make any sense. He told us that we should take our family and leave. Both of us had jobs and move to a place where none of us had jobs. And we couldn't understand it, but we listened to him because we reached out to him for advice because we wanted to know what to do. And within about 2 weeks of following through on his advice and moving our family, we realized that his advice, even though it was so difficult to listen to and so difficult to swallow at the time, was spot on. And that is the advantage of learning from someone older and wise. Their wisdom carries through over time. And the truth is, perception is also very, very important, because how we perceive our mentors is how much we're going to learn from them. If we see them as peers, then we're not going to get so much value from them. But if we looked up to them and we realize that they can share with us Torah wisdom and Torah lessons, then we are going to use that to grow from it. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. You can get in touch with me via WhatsApp or on Instagram. You can find me at Gila Ross. And if you like this episode, please subscribe to our podcast to hear future episodes. Thank you again and have a great day.